I'm Amanda Feuk, and this is my piece that I did, Into the Jungle. So I like to try to push the boundaries of Lego stuff, and for me, for my own personal things, and it's stuff that I've done in maybe more traditional art forms, paper, so on. And I was like, okay, I really like the shadow box paper techniques that often happen, kind of that pop-up style. And I was like, what could I do in Lego that way? And last year I kind of played with it with a geisha piece, but I also added some of the shadow stuff that I've done in the past. And this year I'm like, let's try to go full out. I want to see if I can get depth and the whole 9 yards. And so I started this up, and I was like, okay, that's easy enough. We'll just, put plates down. And then I'm like, oh wait, once they get too high, then they start falling forward. And so I started with the front plate. And I went, all right, now I need a frame. And so I delved into Technic, and anyone who knows me knows that I am not much of a Technic human. And a matter of fact, I traded some of my Technic to Dan Siskin for some tan hands, and suddenly went, oh no, I needed those. But I had enough, and so I have this really ugly, and anyone who does Technic, I apologize, but it's a very, very ugly box that I made with a ton of pins. And I have leftover pins all over the place because I was like, I might need these. And so I did that and just started building it up level by level. And I knew very quickly what I want. I wanted a tiger in the middle. I wanted all that. But I wasn't sure how and where and what pieces I needed. And I didn't have to bricklink anything, which was very nice. I had to make some choices because of that. But it all came together very well. It's just a lot of figuring out how far things had to be as far as depth goes. I also, towards the end when I was working on the tiger, I found out shadows, which I knew shadows are a thing. I've done things with shadows, but because of some of the plates and it not being completely flat, they were casting odd shadows. And so especially on the muzzle, I originally had the muzzle popping out a little bit where the nose was, and it was causing this very strange looking shadow. So I had to do some rebuilds. And so that was interesting, playing with shadows because they were causing issues to the build rather than making them work for the build. It was a little different for me. But yeah, it was really fun to work on. I really enjoyed making the tiger. Kind of, trying to give it that 3D look. And I wasn't sure it was going to work, but I was very happy that you can look at it and there's a bit of a radius that you can look at it and it still works. So that was it.
Well, it's a very unique looking piece here. Certainly not something you see always done with Lego bricks. So if you can talk a little bit more about kind of the structure and how those different levels came together and how those are built.
Sure. So when you're looking at in traditional art and so on, obviously, as I think you just found a fan. That was amusing. As you go into the background in photographs and stuff, they tend to be, different colored, and as they fade out. And I was trying to, and I was looking at a lot of different pictures as well. And so I was like, okay, if I make everything green, it's not going to have that look. And so what I ended up doing is with 1x4 with studs on the sides, and literally a lot of them are just shoved into the plate. So plates shoved into the studs of another plate. I built them up, made them so they didn't tip over, and shoved them in there. I started with the outside layer, got all the fauna and stuff I had going because I wanted to know what I needed to block in for the next layer. Took pictures of everything, took all the fauna off because I kept knocking it off as I worked, and then worked back and back. And so when you look at the side pictures, it gets really, really ugly really, really fast. Like the layer and after layer after layer, like they weren't built to be pretty because you couldn't see it, but I wanted people to be able to look on the side because I'm like, this is kind of neat looking from the side and the different angles because it's I did the Imagine piece with the shadow turning into the silhouette 2 years ago now, and I really enjoyed the fact that it looked like junk on a table until you turn that light on and then it became a silhouette, and I was like, this kind of has that same feel. It's really weird looking from any other angle, but the minute you come to the front, you're like, oh, it's a thing that is okay looking, cool.
It all makes sense once you walk to the front.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was, the layering took a little bit to play with to make sure. What I was running into is, because obviously Lego isn't all flat like paper, the minute you put another layer on there to get different angles of the trees and whatever, they would bump into each other, and so I really had to play with where that force perspective and stuff was going. So, yeah.
So then when you bring it to a show like Brickworld here, how does that work as far as moving it around?
So it's actually lifted up onto, and this is the bin it came in. It's just an underfloor bin that I had, or under the bed bin. And yeah, everything came apart. It laid completely flat. The main two pieces got broken down the middle, and somehow were a stud shorter on the top when I got it here. I'm still absolutely unsure how that happened, because I wasn't missing any pieces, and all the photos look the same. And I'm pretty sure Lego doesn't shrink, and in the weather.
Right.
But so yeah, I fixed that quick. I brought baggies full of extra parts because that's how I roll. Because I knew
it's a good idea.
I knew something was going to go different. And yeah, so I put all the fauna in separate bags, and the trees took the branches off, and so everything looks very different than the first time I set it up, which I also kind of enjoy, because then I'm like, I didn't like that exactly the first time. We'll just switch that up a little bit, but it was too hard to do at home when I was building. I'm like, I'm not messing with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that it all collapsed. I took off the paneling, or the Technic sections. I was like, all right, front off, back off, this off. Yeah, because there's four layers of Technic panels, or layers in there. So yeah, that's kind of the base of it. As far as technique and stuff goes, there's not a lot to the build and the technique I was doing, and a lot of one stud connections that make people groan, but because it's more of an art piece, I kind of go with it.
It works out well. And then you've also got some lighting on the back there with kind of a back panel. How did that work?
So I was told on one of my first pieces I did, or no, the shadow piece, excuse me. I was told by a friend from a different lug that he loved it, but why isn't that Lego? And so for the piece last year, and thanks to Lego taking everyone's ideas of what they wanted on the wall, MOA, the Mall of America Lego store, got a ton of white panels. And so I built it up, and I am just throwing a light right behind it. And I felt a little bad at World of Lights, so I apologize because it was very bright. But I wanted that glow a lot. 90% of the artistic photos I found of the jungle scenes, because of all that filtered light, had that yellow hint to everything. And so I was like, wait, white reflects yellow? And when you put white, the subsurface scattering on there, it's very yellow. And I was really, really pleased with the way it turned out. I was like, maybe? Yes.
That's great that it's brick built, even the background there. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I contemplated doing different patterning and whatever, so it didn't have that square look. But because everything is pretty much studs out, except for a couple cases, I kind of actually enjoyed the look of it. It made it look more to that paper and aesthetic. So I was very pleased it worked.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful piece to look at. Thanks so much for bringing it to the show, and thanks for chatting with me.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was fun.